This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 371 for Wednesday, August 26th, 2020. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week, as she often does at the end of the month, Megan Townsend is back. You can find her at Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters. And this is where Megan plugs a thing. Do you have a thing to plug?
Throw me on the spot there. I really don't. My Twitter and Instagram and my YouTube, I finally posted a selfie on Instagram for the first time in like a year yesterday. So I'm back, I guess. Hi.
Were you taking a social media break?
No. Well,
I'm back.
I guess
but I never
a posting
left.
break. Yeah. I was lurking. I've been lurking a whole bunch.
Yeah, I consume a lot more than I post. You can always tell the weeks where I'm not really engaging much on social media because it goes Monday Spawn Chunks, Wednesday Citadel Cafe, Saturday Pancakes, and then it's back to Monday Spawn. It's just like the three things that I have to post and then nothing else in between.
People know what to expect from you with that, though.
Well, yes. I mean, but there's more stuff happening in between normally. Although, like I said to you in the pre-show, I'm not doing a whole lot right now. I mean, I did go for a really nice hike, and I did share the stuff, some of the videos and pictures in the stories on Instagram, but they disappear after a little while. I did save the story, like it's there for people to see because it was a lot of pretty pictures. But it I didn't make like an Instagram post in my feed. Not that I didn't think about it, but I've sort of made the transition because at first when I mean this is a Joel's an old man, get off the lawn sort of thing. I never really paid much attention to stories for my own content because I said, well, why am I going to bother to post on stories? They're just going to disappear. But for me, because I enjoy sharing food so much, which people find sometimes tropey or annoying, I just like, well, if I put them all in stories, then at least they disappear. The pancake picture stuff, that's a meme, like that's fine. But like sharing dinner and things like that, just because I'm cooking and not sharing it with anybody because pandemic, that's still happening. So it's just like it's a way for me to just kind of like share the kind of things I'm passionate about, but not have them be a permanent part of like this feed thing. And I also noticed that I don't really post art on Instagram anymore. I used to, but I just don't do that anymore. Not that I don't make art, but a lot of it's for clients. I've been drawing some for myself recently, but a lot of it's for clients. But yeah, like I've not felt the need to engage, and I think a lot of it is just because like I don't have a lot to add to the conversation. Because I mean, there's some people posting some stuff where I'm just like, yeah, I agree. I don't need to say that. Like, I'm fine. Good.
See, I have a lot to add on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. I've noticed. Like, I will tweet and yell about all sorts of things.
Which is why
I don't have to. Which is you don't. Yeah, you can.
It's a lot of yelling. Not you. No. My friends that I follow on Twitter. I don't care what you're saying. I'm happy to follow and happy to see that kind of stuff. But I just generally, I've moved away from reading Twitter at all. Because
that's fair. Oh my God, I've gotten back into it.
Overwhelming. And it's all angry all the time.
It's all angry all the time.
All the time.
Which is probably why I haven't really posted on Instagram lately. I think also part of it, I know you don't have to do this, but I feel better about posting on Instagram when I've taken the time to do my makeup and to look cute, and if I have something important to say. And I feel like Instagram is a very curated space. And then my shit posting is all done on Twitter. And I just feel like right now Twitter has become my outlet for a lot of things, and I don't have to look cute while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And Instagram, I feel, I don't know, there's a certain like level of couture I feel like that goes with Instagram sometimes. So
there's definitely some Instagram envy that happens. Like I'm not, I mean, this is apples and oranges because it's obviously different for dudes, but like it's I will get caught up scrolling through like the search or the recommended stuff on Instagram, not because I'm looking for anybody new to follow, just because I'm bored and all the people that I'm currently following are now posting all the same stuff. You know, it's like, okay, I've seen 200 pictures of thunder and lightning from the other night. I don't need any more. So let's just see what else is going on. And sometimes it's just fun stuff. You know, you've got 10 minutes before bed. You just kind of want to be pleasantly distracted by, you know, puppies or I follow a lot of architecture, so I'll get a lot of architecture memes. But what I find very odd and also very interesting about the Instagram algorithm is like, you don't even have to like anything. All you have to do is watch a video or enlarge a photo to look at it full scale. And Instagram will then curate the upcoming search results based on, oh, well, he took the time to look at that one, or he watched that short 30-second interview with Henry Cavill through to the end. So now 20% more Henry Cavill like shows up in my scroll as I go down.
Yeah.
And so that happened a lot this weekend, and we'll get into this into the show, but over the weekend there was the DC Fandom, and so I mean Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill and like all the stars that were involved in DC were sharing all this stuff on social media, and people were resharing and sharing thoughts. So it really started to dominate the feed. But I also follow, well, I mean, I follow Henry Cavill, I follow The Rock, and I follow a couple of other fitness guys. And then Instagram, because of that, thinks I want to see all of these freak show bodybuilder guys, and it is ridiculous. Like, I mean, it's to the point where it's disgusting. It's just like, oh God,
it's disturbing.
It's
like
really
it's
on the
to a point where it's uncomfortable.
Opposite end, you know. And half of it is just like not even bodybuilding stuff. Like, this is some big buff dude in his garage, and I can tell that it's a fail video before it even starts. I was like, no, I don't want to see someone dislocate their elbow, you know, because they're a moron trying to bench something in their, you know, in the garage that they shouldn't be doing. And I just find it's like, why are you showing me all this stuff? This has got nothing to do with The Rock or Henry Cavill. Like these are the kind of things that I would follow, you know. But it's one of those things where it also filters in, you know, like shots of, I want to say like fitness models, so not bodybuilders, but people that would be in the same kind of shape that Henry Cavill is, or gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now. He plays Momoa, Aquaman. You know,
Jason
like,
Momoa,
yeah, like ripped dudes, big dudes, but they're not like, you know, bodybuilder. They're very athletic and stuff. And after a while, like when all this kind of stuff, you start scrolling by, you're just kind of like, you start to feel like this little bit of like this little green, you know, feeling starts to pick her up, you know, inside you. He's like, no, I don't need more of this. This is not making me feel good, you know, like, because I'm not, you know, where I wanted to be, you know, in my, you know, kind of like staying in shape and stuff like that. And it's just, I started to see on a very small scale how I can see it would affect other people on a much larger scale.
I'm really fortunate that I think I'm comfortable enough with myself to like not get that way. Like, you know, I do follow some fitness models and stuff, but it's more like Fitspo. Fits, you know, like inspirational fitness, and it's like, cool, that's something I can aspire to try and be at some point. Like, you know, it's not like I have to look like that, otherwise I'm trash. Like I never get to that point of like self-deprecation. I'm already self-deprecating enough to be funny anyway, so you know, having to like also like purposely bring myself down is not something that I strive to do a lot of the time. So I'm fortunate that I have that, like, that mental I'm able to like compartmentalize it, I guess. But when I say, like, you know, there's like the curation of Instagram, I mean that, like, if I'm going to post something, I feel like, because I don't post often, I feel like I want my posts to be meaningful. I don't want to post just, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you have, you know, your you know, pancakes, and you have, you know, spawn chunks, and you have, you know, TCC and all that jazz. And I don't really have much that I can post about on Instagram, but I can scream about stuff on Twitter, no problem. So I feel like, you know, and it's like there's a lot more conversation happening on Twitter.
And it's someone
and I think
asked
that's what
me,
I like about it more.
Someone asked me recently, you know, like how I don't have a face cam on Twitch. And I was just like, because I can sit down and do Twitch streaming at any time of day in any way, shape, or form. You know, regardless of whether I've shaved that day or not, you know, and it's like, and I like it that way. I don't want to have to worry about, so I mean, I'm not a big selfie guy anyway, but like when I post selfies on Instagram, I feel that same pressure, like that same, like, I don't post these that often. It should probably be a decent picture of me, you know, and and a lot of it's just like I just don't have any because I always have to take them myself, and my arms are only so long. But it's one of those things like, with the Twitch videos, it's like I just don't want to have to get ready to just stream. Like that seems
that's fair.
And I also find it annoying because like I find personally when I'm watching streamers that have a face cam, I find it distracting. Like I find that I'm dividing my attention. It's like they do this shocked response to, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. I was like, what happened? Sorry, I wasn't watching the video game that's full screen. I was trying to see this tiny little picture of you in the corner because you're making faces at the camera. It's like, what? I don't need to see that. Like I'm there to watch the stream. And unless of course it's if it's meant to be like, I mean, if they're playing, I don't watch them, but I can understand why people that watch people play horror games looking to be scared, how a face cam is relevant, right? Like you want to see the reaction of the streamer. But for me, it's like most of the videos, it's like I'm watching you play this game because I want to learn more about the game. I don't care about you hamming it up for the camera. And it's just one of those things. Like I just don't want to have to get ready to stream. Like why would I want to do anything like that? Now on the flip side,
like everyone has their own thing, right? Like I like the personalization aspect of it. I like to be able to put a face to the voice myself, and like for me, it's not always. For me personally, it's not about the game, because not everyone like if they're the type of person who plays the same game all the time. Then I'm probably there for the game at that point. But whereas, there's a lot of the people I follow that I follow regularly are much more of a variety streamer. I'm there for the person.
Right.
So having that, I don't want to say, personal aspect, but like, that there's a little bit more intimacy and you feel like you're kind of getting to know them as a human being and their content in general, not just the game that they're playing. But everyone has their own thing, right? Like everyone has their own thing that they look for in streaming. And I don't mind streaming. I also don't mind embracing my goblin self if I need to. So if I just don't feel like wearing makeup, I'm just not going to wear makeup. I'm just going to look like a trash goblin, and I'm going to be like, you know what? This is what you get today. Have fun. Like, here's what you get. So
yeah. But I'm just not looking to add another point of failure either, because like if the video's feed doesn't work or the lighting's not right, I mean, and I'm not talking about like looking good or not. I'm talking about presenting a professional feed, right? So like
I get you.
Professional podcaster, I would prefer to have a decent mic and a decent sound, on stream. And if my audio is screwing up, I'm going to probably stop what I'm doing and fix it, not just keep on going. And with streaming and I think the problem for me is like people don't seem to be as okay with it either way as they should be. Like if a streamer doesn't have a face cam, so what? But I get asked, as my stream is growing, I get asked more often, how come you don't have a face cam? It's like, why do I need one? Like what?
Yeah.
Why is this such a big deal? Like, does it make it unwatchable if I'm not,
Some people just don't want a face cam, and that is okay.
Exactly. But the general population doesn't seem to get that. At least this is what I've been experiencing over the last few weeks. In a good way, I've had more people on stream, which is great. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
It's just that as you increase the population of the stream, you also get more of the stereotypical kind of questions and things that you see and that I see in people that have like a regular 300 or 400 people in their Twitch stream on a regular basis. I don't have that many, but as I'm getting up north of 50 sometimes, you start to see the percentage of like, oh, right, you're that kind of person in the chat room. Okay, I know the kind that you are now. And now it's very small, but you do start to see that as your numbers increase. And so I'm just trying to find the right bottle to answer for all these now questions that are coming up like all the time. It's just like, it's pretty funny. Speaking of, actually, I have been adding a few additional streams to the mix. I've been doing art streams, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. I almost did one today, but I think I'm going to try to stick to this Tuesday-Thursday thing because it does seem to work out. And I have been designing the long-awaited emotes on my Twitch channel. I think I've been an affiliate for a year, or more, and so I'm looking to add more emotes as time goes on. But right now, I've got the opportunity to have 5, and I've done 4 of the 5. And I don't know what I'm going to do for the 5th. People are saying they want a coffee mug, but people are also saying that they would like a raid emote that they could use in a channel when they go to raid it, which would be also very good because then it's a nice way to kind of like say hello to the streamer that's being raided and just be nice.
You can raid people with coffee mugs.
Well, yeah, I could do that too, but the raid emote that I have roughed out has like a sword and eye lasers, so I'm kind of leaning on...
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning on that.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah. But I've done 4 so far. I've got like the Perfectionist one, and there's a Think Tank one, or a Mental Note one. Mm-hmm. And the 2 that I added this past week are the Hype emote, and we wanted one... Originally, it had like a yellow heart. Like I wanted a heart, but I didn't want to do like a red heart. I wanted to do something unique. I mean, Twitch has a default purple heart that people can do to show like, appreciation or show love in the chat, that kind of thing. And we've thought about, obviously someone at some point suggested a stack of pancakes for me. And I thought that's a good idea, but I don't know if it's going to read at that scale. And I don't know what the purpose would be. Like what emotional response would you tie to a stack of pancakes? Considering I only have 5 emotes at this level. Now, if I was a partner and I had 20, sure, I'd throw a stack of pancakes in there. Who the hell cares? But we're kind of like on a limited choice here. So I made a pancake heart. So the heart for my channel.
I'm looking at it now.
Thanks. Yeah. So the heart for my channel is a pancake heart. And I think I mentioned this last week, but thanks to Alistair, our mutual friend, he let me know that you can use the Twitch stickers on iOS. Now, I don't know if you can do this on Android. So any kind of mobile device that has like a Twitch app tie-in might be able to have this ability. But I can now use myself as a cartoon going, yay, as a response to friends when they text me, which is
wonderful. I'll
really
show you that too. I was like, that is the coolest thing.
It is really fun. Yeah. It's one of those things where like I had a friend, she was having a rough day, and I was like, well, on the bright side, I am now an emote. And she's like, what? I was like, here. And I sent her the pictures. She's like, shut the front door. Are you kidding? I was like, yeah, I did this the other day on stream. So people can go to twitch.tv/JoelDuggan and watch the VODs if they want to of me actually drawing these. And what's cool about them is that they are a small illustration. So from concept to live in the chat room, I can pretty much do it in one stream. It's about 2.5 hours, give or take. And so depending on which one it is and how well it's going, I can get it done and up in the chat. So you can actually see the process that goes into creating these things. And it's something that I have been hired to do before. Johnny, my co-host on the Spawn Chunks, he got me to do most of his emotes. He had one that was done by somebody else, but everything else that he's got was done by me. So it's a lot of fun. It's nice to have this kind of professional work that's right up my alley in terms of cartooning. The last few years I've been doing a lot of graphic design, which is fine, but not where my true passion lies and where I set out in my artistic career. So to kind of reel it back and do some like web design that is cartoons, because that's what emotes are, is really fun. It's really nice to be able to do that. And it's nice to throw some variety up on the Twitch channel too. Like I've been streaming a lot of Minecraft for the last few years, and I'm now doing Satisfactory, as we'll get into in a listener email in just a second. But having these emotes and having some drawing and stuff, this is also the first time that I've drawn for myself in probably a year or two.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, well, because I just do client work, right? And it scratches. I mean, some of the client work is fun. Like I did some TV character designs back in April. I can't tell anybody about them because it's all under NDA, but that was fun. It was cartooning and it was what I wanted to do. And so it's all good, but I can't show anybody. So it looks like I'm not drawing, but it also scratches that itch, that creative itch of drawing something and drawing a cartoon. And then I think, well, at the end of the day, it's like, well, that was like 40 hours of work this week. I don't really want to draw for myself right now. I'm kind of done, So there was that too. But and this is work related. I mean, streaming has become a part-time income for me, but it's also a lot of fun. And drawing myself as a cartoon is always a unique experience. I would imagine it's kind of like a self-portrait for people that paint. It's an odd thing to dive into as you're trying to make something that's 112 pixels tall actually look like you. It's not as easy as you think.
No, yeah, like chibi proportions at that point.
Yeah, no, exactly. Very tiny hands, big glasses, all that kind of stuff. It's but it was a lot of fun.
It's cute though. It definitely reads you. I was just like, I see it.
Thank
it definitely looks like you.
Thank you. So that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to the last little bit?
Not a whole bunch, but also a lot at the same time. I'm sure I mentioned last time that I got approved for a film mentorship. So I've been steadily working on that slowly. I am in the process of finishing up a series of course days for third ADing and production assisting. So hopefully once COVID relaxes a little bit and more projects start to pop up, I'll be able to actually work in my industry, which would be really, really nice. Aside from that, though, just to kind of keep myself creative, I accidentally started writing a feature-length screenplay. And I say accidentally because this is a long story. So a girl that I met online, a friend that I met online, I should say, they wrote a really, really beautiful short story that I read. So we started chatting because they were writing a story and they just needed a second pair of eyes on it, a beta reader, if you will. So I was like, I do that. I like to read stuff. I wanted something to do during quarantine that, got me back into reading and literature again. And that kind of seemed like a good gateway into it. And I also just like editing stuff a lot. I forgot how much I liked it, so I was like, yeah, I'll do this, and it's been a great time. So her, I want to say her and I, they're gender neutral. I got to remember to use the proper pronouns. So they, we've been chatting, kind of on and off a little bit, and I just was, the website that they post their story on, I, was noodling around and I found this other one and I'm like, oh, this is really cute. And I was like, this is very visual in my brain. And it felt very cinematic. And I was, gonna, email the author and be like, hey, do you mind if I use this as practice for writing? Can I convert this into a screenplay? And it was them. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I've talked to you. Great. We have a rapport already. So I asked them, they're like, yeah, sure. I was like, it's not going to be made or anything. It's not, this is just for fun. I just want to, practice writing scripts and, transcribing prose literature into screenplay format and see how it works. And they're like, yeah, sure. No problem. And, it was supposed to be 20 pages, and then 120 pages later, we have a feature-length screenplay, and they read it, and they were like, listen, I really like this. You've put a lot of love and care and attention into it, which I really appreciate. If you wanted to make this into a movie, that'd be really cool. And I was like, sure. I was going to ask you if you'd be okay with it, because in the process of writing it, I was like, I feel like we have something here. I feel like there's something important about it. It hit me in enough of a place to want to convert it into a screenplay in the first place, and I feel like it'll also resonate for other people as well. And maybe not everyone, of course. I don't think everything's going to resonate with everybody, but I think it's an important little story to tell. So I finished the first draft and I sent it to a friend who's a professional screenplay writer, and he gave me some advice on it. So now we're in the process of doing version 2. So I'm basically taking what I have and throwing it all out and starting again from scratch, more or less, and just kind of taking the bits that work and reworking the parts that don't and adding more to it. Because as it stood right now, it didn't have a central dramatic argument, which is I'm sure you're familiar with what that is.
Yep.
For listeners who are not familiar with what that is, that's like the central core of your story, and that's what causes all of your conflict. That is like what your story is about, and it didn't really have that. It had a story, but it wasn't a central dramatic argument that made, the story important. So we've added that in, and we're, I'm working on it, and I'm working very closely with the author still too. So, because I want to make sure that, it still can be an easily legible screenplay and, an enjoyable story, while also not compromising their original work.
Right.
And, I don't want to say the name of it right now.
Well, no, don't reveal anything. I mean, the fact that you're working on it. I mean, it sounds like, obviously you're passionate about it. You're doing well with it. The original, IP holder is happy with it. I mean, that's a fun personal project. And if it turns into something more, it's awesome. But I mean, it's nice to hear you so passionate about something,
Yeah, I would love for it to become a thing, because it's the first time I've actually written anything that's, I write a lot. I do love writing, but it's the first time that I've written something that has just come really easily, and actually feels like it's more tangible. Like it feels accessible in a way that most of the other stuff that I've written has not. If I've written it, I've liked writing it, but it didn't feel like I'm like, I don't think this is never gonna go, off the page. but I feel like this has the potential to possibly go off the page. Not anytime soon, of course, but like if it's a possibility for it to be made, oh boy, that'd be really cool, and y'all would be the first to know.
Cool. That's great. I mean, it's a fun project. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it might almost be, for me, even a little easier as a creator sometimes. When someone says, Joel, draw a cartoon, come up with an idea, I'm like, woof, where do I even, like, what are my interests? What do I want to do? Where if someone comes to me to hire me as a character designer, like, hey, we've got this script, here's the basic idea, here's the outline and the key stuff for the show. I need you to draw these 3 characters. Here are some key personal traits. While we want your original artistic take on it, we've given you some parameters. So out of curiosity, when you're writing your own stuff versus adapting something to a screenplay, did you find it, I don't want to say easier because there's challenges involved in both, but did you find it like more accessible? Like did you find that you were able to get the ball rolling quicker because it existed on its own first in a different format?
Yeah. I think the thing that was the easiest was that I didn't have to wonder about what was happening next because I already had a blueprint. The blueprint was there. So I had, and then this happened and then this happened. So I knew what was going to happen after every single scene. Like I knew how it ended. I knew how it started. I knew what the crux of the story was going to be anyway. But the way I had written it initially, like in the screenplay format, because prose writing is very, as I'm sure you know, it's very loose. Like there's not a lot of there's rules, but there's not a lot of rules. You know what I mean? Like you can be very artistic with prose writing, and your brain can fill in all that extra information without a lot of descriptors. Like for example, there was one paragraph in the original draft, in the original story, that is 3 sentences, and it conveys so much information, like so much. It's literally 3 sentences, and it conveys like a lot. And that is like, those 3 sentences were like the central like conflict of the story. And in a prose writing, like when I read it, I was like, oh, this is really heavy and deep, and like it's so much. But in a cinematic sense, I had to fill in on that whole thing. Like it was literally 3 lines, and I had to take those 3 lines and convert it into a whole scene where you watch it happen instead of just filling it in your brain.
Right.
Like your brain can just fill things in so fast, but in cinema, you can still fill stuff in, but with this, you can't leave large moments like that to just happen off camera or in like a small little, and then they never spoke again. Like that's boring for film. But when it hits a certain point in prose literature, it's very different. So because I had the blueprint of it, it was fine. So I was able to actually mark out and, draft up, okay, and then this is going to be this scene, and this is going to be this scene, and I would like copy parts of the text and put it in the screenplay, and then I would have to go in and like stretch out those parts so you were actually seeing everything that happened. So some of it is stuff that's original to me, but it's like formatted around what was originally written in the original text. So it was a fun challenge. It was actually really interesting. When it comes to writing my own stuff, there's rewards to both. Like with my own stuff, I do a lot of planning. Obviously, I've been writing the same damn story for 14 years and it's still not anywhere close to being done. But I know how it's going to happen. I just don't know a lot of the details. But having that outline, with this feature has been very helpful in, I don't have to wonder about how I'm going to tie everything in. Yeah. Because it's already tied in, right?
I'm not so much of a Tolkien head that I know the backstory of how he wrote it. But drawing a treasure map is always easier when you know where the treasure is buried. And I feel like having the outline and having those points that you have to hit and then connecting A to B, that's how I used to write my comic strip. Is that I would find a funny situation. So not just a joke. I would find a funny situation and say, okay, there's more than one comic here. Yeah. And then I'd find a couple of jokes, a couple of funny moments, and I'd have to decide, okay, well, if this is the big funny joke, then that's at the end. of the series of 4 comics. How do I get there? Like, but I had the end goal. Like, I had like the Darth Arabica joke I wanted to make about the Star Wars coffee stuff. And it's like, all right, well, how do I get there? Well, okay, we have to start with, they got to be in the cafe. They got to start the conversation about coffee and like dark roast coffee. And we're like, so how do I do that? You know, so like but it helps springboard those other ideas because it gives you that end goal of like, well, I really like this thing. And I know, and for you, you're like, well, this thing has to happen next. I have to get to scene B. So scene A has to get to scene B. I don't know how I'm going to do scene A, but at least I have the direction in which it's going to go. I've done very little screenplay writing. I did do it in animation school, but I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. And it was not for anything long. It was a very short exercise. But
the rules haven't really changed from what I've been told.
No,
the rules
they really
from how
no.
it was. It's all, you know, it's the same. There's a reason it's the same.
Yeah, and the thing with animation is that so much of it is visual and so much of it happens to be, I mean, it's very similar to film, obviously. It's just that so much of it's drawn. But because animation is such a unique medium, a lot of it is in the storyboards. And so you'll find animation storyboards will be way more detailed than the average film storyboard because the animators need that information. And so the scripts I found for animation were also not nearly as detailed as they would be for film, which is weird. You'd think it would be the other way around. But I found that the scripts for film would be way more detailed than the scripts for animation. It's strange.
Really? Because I've heard the opposite. I think maybe it has changed a little bit then because I have a really great book called The Screenwriter's Bible, 5th edition. And it is generally, it doesn't want a lot of description. It wants enough description so you can see what's going on, but you don't have to be really obvious with stuff that's like, and then they put their cup down and then they got up, and you know, stuff like that. It doesn't want all of that. It just kind of wants a general feel, and they don't want too much. Like, you can't have long blocks of text describing something.
Right.
Because it's too much to read. So generally every single paragraph of action that happens in your screenplay should be ideally 4 lines, maybe 5, if it doesn't make sense to break it. But if your paragraph is more than 5 lines of text, it's too long. You got to shorten it down. So I don't know if animation is like that as well. I was told by some people, now this is like more current, I know you haven't been in animation in a long time.
Oh, it's been a while, yeah.
So this is like someone who's been in it recently. They were saying, like, you know, you have to be a little bit more detailed with it because, you know, if they, you know, someone stands on a log, well, you got to draw that log. But does that log come up again at another point? You know, there's a lot of things you got to.
Oh, are you talking about the boards being more detailed? Or you're talking about the script being more detailed?
No, the screenplays. So like, yeah, I don't know. I would. This is partially why I'm really excited for my mentorship, and I'm hoping I get to do more hands-on work with my mentor because right now she works in animation. She's a producer in animation, but she still works in animation, so she knows a little bit more about how the process of animation works, and I don't know that much about it, and I would love to learn more about it. So,
well, I could easily see animation screenplays becoming more detailed over time since I was last working in the industry because boards, especially digital now, you can add so much to them. And with animation, the more detail the boards have, the less wiggle room the animation has, which means you get closer to what you want, right? It's more detailed instructions equals what you want. When you're vague with storyboards, you get whatever the animator interprets, you know, or the director interprets. Whereas if you have a very detailed script, therefore you have very detailed storyboards and just kind of like, you know, it's very more precise down the line. But I say that very seldom was I ever working with a script in animation, with the exception of some of my freelance work. Most of the time, I was working with a television studio doing service work. So we didn't even do the boards. Like the boards would be given to us. And so all of the stuff was all finite before it came to us. Although some of the time, you know, in freelance, you're kind of like given an outline. So there is no screenplay. It's like, well, we want to do this like little 2-minute advertisement animation for the web. And so you get like an outline. And so you as the artist have to script, storyboard, and animate all of this based on an outline. And you're just kind of like, I'm going to need a lot of checks and balances from the client before I move on, because otherwise the chances of them getting what they want are
that there's
slim.
not a pay raise when all that happens.
Nope, there is not.
Which is a problem. That's a problem. I'm genuinely surprised there is no unionization in terms of the animation industry. Like I'm honestly baffled. Yep. And people keep saying, "Oh, we need a union," but like nothing's happened.
Studios keep on kiboshing it because the studios don't want to pay. And I'm not going to get into it because I could put my foot in my mouth, but I know people working in the industry that have not had a significant pay raise, given that they were in the industry when I was working in it 15 years ago, and they still are in it, and they don't even have what's the word I'm looking for? Inflation. Like it does well, there's that too, but like it doesn't even it doesn't even account for inflation over 10 years, let alone
that's bad.
The other things that they should have. And so, but I mean, it's not anyone's studio's fault. It's the industry as a whole. Unless you're out in like Vancouver or in California, there is a union, and you wonder why animators and everybody moves to California and why it flourishes, because there's a union, and the studios, there's a certain level of pay and work environment, health, and all this kind of stuff. It's all taken care of. But it's one of those things that it's always been something. And again, I can't speak to it at length because I haven't been in it for so long, but it's one of the reasons I got out of it. It's because I could have all the same, we'll say benefits, in terms of doing what I like, roughly the same income, and I could just work for myself at home. So why was I working for someone else? Right. So that's kind of the conclusion that I drew, and why I ended up moving into illustration, is because I didn't have any health benefits when I was working in the industry, and I don't now. But at least at the time when I was switching, I was like, well, it's all the same. It's just like this way I'm not answering to anybody else. It's me running my own shop. So it worked out in the end. Yeah. But not everyone can do that. I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do, but yeah.
I mean, I am all pro animation union. So if that can be a thing that happens at some point, animators are so skilled.
You and I have got a mutual friend. We should pick their brain about it sometime. I think it'd be an interesting, knowing now that you're getting into
I would
animation,
actually love to talk to them.
Yeah, I think I would love to sit down and talk to them. Just kind of figure out if that conversation has come up, because they would know. I know they would know who and where and how that might have come up at some point. But what's easy to do, and that's play video games. And our email this week, which is always exciting because we don't get a lot of email at the Citadel Cafe, so I always enjoy it when people write in, is about video games, specifically one. Email is from RoboCreep11, and I think I might have actually I think RoboCreep11 was last week's emailer. I might have forgot to change the name on this. I'm sorry. It's from Mr. Red. Correct. My notes are backwards. Hi, dudes and dudettes from the cafe. I have been playing a lot of Satisfactory recently because of Joel's recommendation for it. I just got coal power recently in the game. I found the biofuel is so annoying, and continuously gathering leaves and woods just gets on my nerves. I understand at first maybe tier 0 or tier 1, but it lasts until tier 3 before you unlock coal power. So I've got a question for you. How would you change biofuel starting out? Should it last so long, or should you get coal power sooner? Thank you for making such a great podcast. Yours Satisfactory, Mr. Red. P.S. If the podcast is the Citadel Cafe, what does the Citadel Cafe coffee taste like? P.P.S. Thanks for putting up with the Satisfactory chat co-host. I think that's parts for you, Megan.
You are welcome. You are welcome. I've never played Satisfactory, so I don't have a lot to contribute. I can say that the Citadel Cafe coffee would taste delicious. I wouldn't be able to have it, though, because I'm allergic.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Fun, random, weird fact about
Citadel Cafe tea or fruit juice, perhaps? We'll have to find
hot chocolate or tea.
Hot chocolate,
preferably of the iced variety. If it's tea based, I feel like our area is very well known for blueberry tea. I don't know why.
Oh, because Nova Scotia is the blueberry capital of North America. That's why.
Okay, that makes sense. So I feel like we would have a very rich, very delicious blueberry tea in the form of I had one before. It's called a Halifax fog.
Oh,
it's
yes.
It's basically a London fog, but made with blueberry tea. And that's what the Citadel Cafe tea would taste like, in my opinion. You can talk about the coffee.
I will defer to your tea expertise. It all just tastes like leaves to me, so I tend to stay away. The Citadel Cafe coffee, well, the coffee that I drink is surprisingly unremarkable. I drink a lot of coffee, so I just buy Maxwell House, which is not the best. I'd say it's probably one of the better brands for what it is, for the price that you're paying. However, I really enjoy Tan Coffee, Tan. They're a local roaster in Wolfville. Windsor. They're in Windsor, Nova Scotia. And so I get a bag of roasted beans there. I get my mom to pick it up for me sometimes. They live in Windsor. So before they come into the city, sometimes I'll poke them and say, hey, can you maybe sort of kind of swing by Tan and get me some beans? Because I like freshly ground coffee on the weekends especially. During the week, I have a French press and I use Maxwell House, and it comes out fine. It's not the best.
I was going to ask you if you use a French press, because when I could drink coffee, or when I started drinking coffee before I realized I was allergic to it, I loved French press coffee. And this is the thing, I love the taste of coffee. Coffee does not like me, and I'm always curious to know who does French press, because I think it's the best way to have coffee.
Oh yeah, and I like my coffee strong too. So it's a good 8-minute steep. Sometimes I forget about it, so it might be in there longer.
Oops.
So it's
I do that with my tea.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm the kind of person, if I do drink tea, the one time I drink tea is when I'm sick. It is because I find if I have like a head cold, coffee tastes funny to me, and it looks like your taste buds are off, and so I'll drink tea. And it's usually if you're dehydrated too, coffee is not the best for you. So tea is generally a better choice. But
herbal tea specifically, if you have anything with caffeine in it, it's just going to do.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll have like chai tea or something, lemon tea.
Chai tea is actually caffeinated.
Well,
you want something like chamomile or just any kind of herbal tea.
Right. Most of them I don't like. So
that's fair.
But I'll leave the tea bag in the whole time. Until the cup's gone, because I'm such a coffee drinker. It's like, why is this water vaguely taste like grass? I need something stronger than this.
I need to teach you how to tea, because this is the fact that you leave it in there the whole time. I'm kind of just like, oh no, that's not how you tea. But anyway, because like certain teas have to be like boiled at like a certain water temperature, otherwise you burn the leaf and it tastes bad. Anyway, we won't get into this. Yeah. It's a whole thing.
But to answer your question about satisfactory, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with the early tiers in the game to get to coal power. To illustrate it for you, Megan, it's basically like to power your factory in satisfactory. At first, you have to burn leaves and wood, turn it into biomass, like mulch, and you get energy that way. But you constantly, as a player, have to feed the machines, and if they run out, then your power shuts off and everything stops. But coal power is the first time in the game where you can get something automatic. You can find a coal node, mine coal out of the ground, and belt feed it into a coal generator, and then never have to touch it again. And so your coal power frees you up in the game to then do other things where you're not constantly having to go back to your factory and put more logs on the fire, essentially. But there's a couple of things in the email that had me a little bit confused, because biofuel is a completely different thing. That's much later in the game. I think he might mean biomass and solid biomass. And the thing about those that unfortunately the game just kind of touches on but doesn't really get into, and what saved me, is you can automate the creation of that. So I had a bin for grass and leaves and a bin for wood. And each one of those bins would go down to a constructor, which would then take and make biomass. And then both of those would then make solid biomass. I still had to hand feed the biomass into the biomass burner, but they were next to one another. So it was not a big task to just go to this bin full of solid biomass and just move it over to the burner. Again, once you get coal power, it's not the end of the world. The thing that I think is hard at the level of the game that I'm at, because I'm using fuel power right now, is that once you know that coal exists in the game, and not everybody is going to do a second playthrough, you can just go straight to coal. You can skip over as much of the biomass as you want and only create the bare minimum to get by until you get coal. And at that point, you're not really running around doing a whole lot. I did watch a 24-hour stream from Kibitz, one of the people that I've mentioned on the show before. And at the end of his stream, he did a speed run, just as a fun thing to try to hype himself up a bit in Satisfactory. And Satisfactory is something that he's got like 1,000 hours in. So he's very well versed in the game. And something that he was doing that I thought was really interesting is that he would start small in his local kind of where he decided to build. And every time he would go around and look for a new mining node or a new place to build something, he would run in a circle. And he would run in a circle in a wider and wider and wider circumference. And every time he did that, he was just gathering leaves and wood the whole time. So if he was going to check on his limestone node, on the way there, he would just gather as much. He would take the long way and gather as much leaves and wood as he could. And that helped him with the biomass stuff. So he was doing two things at once. He was going to set up a new mining node, but then also collecting leaves and wood on the way there and back. And so that to me kind of like opened my eyes to like, oh man, if and when I decide to do a new playthrough on Satisfactory, like say they update the game and they change it dramatically and starting over is kind of like the best option. Then I know that I would be definitely using that kind of a technique to minimize the running back and forth with the biomass stuff, because it is annoying. It's not the most fun part of the game, but at the same time, coal power is so rewarding because you've spent a couple hours running around fueling stuff by hand. So I don't mind the investment of time for the reward of the freedom of having coal power and other power down the line. So I think it's balanced the way that it is. It might need a couple of tweaks here and there, but I don't think it's a big deal. The next time I play, I'm definitely going for coal power a lot sooner. But I took my time on this playthrough, so we'll see. I actually just did a stream earlier today. We were setting up some copper nodes at the new Devastator factory that I've got going on stream. So if people want to see a little bit more about what Satisfactory is about, even though I'm mid-game now, a few hundred hours in, I'm building a new factory. So a lot of what I'm doing is basic early game setup. It's just on a much larger scale. Like rather than setting up one copper node, I'm setting up 6. But it's the same process. It's just that I'm doing a lot more at once. Really, but it's which I think is more fun. I've got trains now, which is epic. It's ridiculously fun.
That's kind of cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, today was the first time that I was able to jump on the train. It just so happened that my break, when I take a stream break for 5 minutes to kind of refresh my drink and go for a stretch, I jumped on the train. So rather than going to like a be right back screen, I just put up a be right back message on the screen, and then people were watching the train go around in circles for 5 minutes. I mean, it's a big circle, right, but it's better than just watching a static screen. And everybody loved it. I was like, it's just a train, but there's something about trains in video games that people just love. And again, it's the worst kind of like half pun to make, but they're very satisfying to set up. Like it's really cool to see this automated thing going around in the route that you set it to do, and knowing that you had to lay every last mile of that track, you know. It's a lot of fun. But well, moving on to what we have been watching, there's not a whole lot of, I guess, new full content to report on. Most of what I want to talk about is trailers, but true to form, whenever Megan's on the show, it's always nice to bring up some of the DC stuff, because that tends to be where we land in terms of our crossover superhero fandom. This past weekend was the DC Fandom event on August 22nd. That was part 1 of the event. There's going to be more stuff happening on September 12th, the second part. I don't know why it's in 2 parts. Perhaps they have so much planned that it just wouldn't fit, or perhaps celebrity schedules just didn't match up. I don't know. It feels odd that it's all kind of broken up. But the major thing that most people are talking about are a trailer for the Batman, excuse me, starring Robert Pattinson, and the trailer for the Justice League Snyder Cut was also released. And the internet has basically been having all kinds of things to say about these things. Have you seen either trailer?
I saw the Batman one. I saw parts of the Batman one. I'm actually pretty impressed with how much they managed to make it look like a trailer with the lack of footage, because they didn't get a lot of stuff done before COVID hit.
Oh yeah, it's still filming, or on hold, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm impressed with how clean it actually looks as a trailer, considering they didn't have a lot to work with. So I think, that's something to be said for it, for sure. It just doesn't feel very exciting to me yet, but I feel like that's also because we don't have much.
It's hard to say. And so I don't want to, while I don't want to judge it, based on just the trailer, given that we know that there hasn't been a lot of development or filming. I also am not super excited about it. I mean, it looks like it's well made. The important beats, like Pattinson looks good in the Batman suit. You're like, that's fine. I wasn't expecting him not to, like just there's a couple of things where the studio has done this a number of times, including twice now where they've kind of nailed it. I thought Affleck looked fine in the Batman suit. I thought that Bale looked good in the Batman suit, more so the second movies, not the first one. But like, there's a lot of stuff in there that they did right, and they've done it right a number of times. So I'm not really worried about that stuff. I'm a little concerned of how dark it is, but again, like maybe the only thing that they had were the night shots, like we don't know. But even the mood and how they put the trailer, if they know where they're going with this, and this is the trailer they wanted to put together, it felt like just another grungy, dark Batman film. And I'm not saying that that's bad, because The Dark Knight was also a dark Batman film, and arguably probably one of the best Batman films I think that's been made. But Heath Ledger's Joker brought some, albeit twisted, color to the film. And I watched the trailer again before the show tonight, and there is a little hint of green on one of the envelopes that the Riddler has in the film, or in the trailer. Well, that's it. Everything else is just brown and black. Like there's
it's not very colorful.
No, there's nothing to it. And it also feels darker from an emotional standpoint. Like Batman, it's funny that they're setting it with such a young Batman, because it feels like the old vindictive, kind of angry Batman. But maybe he starts off that way too. I don't know. I'm not sure what particular stories they might be pulling from to get there. But it didn't really strike me as anything super unique. It looks like it's going to deliver on some things. Like, there's a part at the end where somebody in clown makeup says, "Who were you supposed to be?" and tries to beat up Batman. Well, we know how that goes. That didn't go very well for the person in makeup. And it was vicious. Like it was more than just disarming and putting this guy down. He laid a beat on him pretty hard, and it's not bad. I mean, he says, "I am vengeance," and that's lines from the comics and stuff like that. But it's not wholly different from anything else that I've seen before. Again, careful not to prejudge, because I think there was an interview I saw, I think on Instagram, as a matter of fact. Someone had caught Christian Bale on the red carpet for one of his other films and said, "Hey, we recently got a trailer for The Batman this past weekend. It looked good, Robert Pattinson playing, The Dark Knight. Any advice to pass on to Robert Pattinson?" And Bale just said, "Just do ignore the fans, do your own thing. Like you're an actor, you know what you're doing. He's a talent." I mean, he went on to say some nice things about Pattinson, but also said, like, just make it your own. Just ignore them, make it your own. I mean, look at what happened with Ledger. Everybody poo-pooed Ledger being cast as the Joker. They thought it was a terrible idea. And then the performance he delivered just knocked everybody's socks off. And so he's just like, just don't listen to the naysayers, because the internet likes to ramp on things that haven't been released yet. Because they got nothing else better to do, because not only does DC currently have a history of not making very good films, a few exceptions, but also everything has been delayed because of COVID-19 concerns. So you've got nothing else left to do but speculate, because the studios can't even release new hints and new trailers because there's no new footage, So we don't have a lot to go on. I mean, like I said, it looks good in terms of like it looks like it's on brand, but it's like I know if I like the brand. You know what I mean? Like I have a mistrust with DC, and so I don't know we needed a new Batman movie. Like I was fine with Ben Affleck as Batman. Like I would have been on board for a Ben Affleck Batman movie, but they went another direction with it again.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh.
Yep.
Like I
would have been really happy, because I really liked Batfleck. I really did. I thought Batfleck was a great option, and I think that's because he's just a really great, I think I've said this before, you get really good Bruce Waynes, get really good Batmans. You don't often get a really good Bruce, who's like the guy in between.
Yes.
Because like Bruce Wayne is like a character, Batman is a character, Bruce is the person in between both of them, and I feel like Batfleck was a really good Bruce. I just want to see a Batman take, and I was talking about this with my roommate, I just want to see Bruce Wayne adopt a bunch of kids. Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
He just adopts a bunch of children, teaches them how to fight, and then there's the Bat family. And I just want a Bat family. I want Barbara Gordon. I want Tim Drake. I want Stephanie Brown. Like I just want all the Bat kids. I want a movie about the Bat kids, because I feel like it'd be so different. But it would still be Batman, but it'd be different. I just feel like a story with Barbara Gordon, like how she becomes Oracle, would be interesting. I feel like, having anything else other than just Bruce Wayne being a mopey man would be so much more interesting, though. Because it's, again, like you're saying, we've had it. We've already had it. And I don't know, and I know I'm willing to give, Pattinson a shot. I think he's an interesting actor, but...
Did you call him Battinson?
I absolutely did. You heard me correctly. Batfleck and Pattinson,
No, logic. I see the logic. Yeah. There
you go. Anyone who plays Batman, except for Christian Bale. Christian... you can't do anything with Christian Bale. But Batfleck and Pattinson, that's, it's just funny. But yeah, I'm willing to give Pattinson a shot. But... again, he's a very interesting actor, but I feel like the take that is always being done with Batman is that it's just this moody thing, and I'm kind of tired of seeing a rich white man be sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just a thing we've just seen a whole bunch of, and I feel like we need a different take. So that's why I want to see Bruce Wayne adopt a bunch of kids. He just becomes a dad. That's effectively what he does. Everyone can be mad about it, but if you read the comic books, he's just adopted a bunch of children and he's taught them how to fight, and they all fight together as a family. I feel like that would be a fun, campy take, and I feel like we need something just different.
One of the things that does have me interested about the film is the rest of the casting. We've got Colin Farrell, unrecognizable in prosthetic makeup as Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin.
Yes.
Paul, I think it's Dano is how you pronounce his last name, is Edward Nashton, the Riddler. I don't remember Edward Nashton. I thought it was Nigma, but that could be me from a cartoon thing. The thing about the Riddler that I got from the film was, again, really twisted serial killer off. It doesn't feel like a Batman villain. It feels like, I don't know. It feels outside of what you would expect. And something that I always really liked about the Riddler is like the intelligence of the riddles was like really highbrow, and the riddles and the poems that they read in the trailer are like third grade stuff. It's terrible. It's probably the worst writing in the whole trailer. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. Andy Serkis is playing Alfred Pennyworth, which is unique.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Peter Sarsgaard. So one of the Sarsgaards is in it as District Attorney Gil Colson. We've got Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, Catwoman. And I think...
Which I'm really into, though. I think she's going to do a really good job with that.
I only vaguely know who she is, but... And I've not seen her in anything, so I can't judge. And they don't really show enough. The trailer is so dark. I'm not really sure how that's going to go.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey Wright is James Gordon. People would probably know him from Westworld. He played Bernard. And he's got probably some of the most dialogue in the trailer. And he's perfect for it. He's an excellent Jim Gordon. Like, his delivery, it's thoughtful and articulate. And the way that he delivers lines is very... I don't want to say deliberate, because that's obvious. It's acting. But like it's poignant. He pauses in a lot of places that make sense. Like he's a very slow actor, I guess. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way, in that he takes the time to communicate everything that he's doing, whether it's facial expressions, whether it's tone of voice, pace, all of it. He takes his time with how he does it, and it works very, very well. And I really liked him in Westworld. And so Jeffrey Wright as James Gordon is fantastic. And nice to see a diverse cast as well too, which is really cool. The other thing that we got to see is I'm going to use air quotes here, trailer for the Justice League Snyder Cut, which is apparently going to be released on HBO Max in 2021. Apparently needed to be a 4:3 aspect ratio trailer, which drove me crazy. And apparently it's going to be 4 hours long. Yay. Sarcasm.
Wow.
Like, I didn't like the 2.5 hours it was to begin with.
No.
I mean, there's two ways it can go. One, it didn't work as a 2-hour film because it wasn't written to be one, and it ended up being something that it wasn't intended to be. And that 4 hours may actually do it justice. Good example. Infinity War and Endgame would not work as one film, right? That's got to be 4 hours between the two of them, if not a little bit more. So
yeah.
Now, granted, they had 19 films to lead up to it, but still, like, there's an example of that could not have been one film. I found in Endgame was actually kind of choppy, even on its own. Still loved it, but there was some pacing issues. So 4 hours long, it may shed some light on some missing pieces, some things that we were just like, wait, what just happened? Like, I feel like we could get some pieces there. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be any better. I don't know, by taking the Justice League and just making it longer, if you can then change the tone of the film. Because the tone is what basically I didn't like. I would like a person to make a superhero movie that actually likes superheroes, for starters.
Yes.
I'm done with superheroes. Like you said, you're tired with rich white men being sad in Batman films. Yeah. I'm done with people beating up my superheroes. Like, for the love of God, can they just win? Like, or have a film from start to finish where they're just good at what they do. It's okay to do that. I don't need this internal struggle of every last superhero to be a sad loner. And everything in the trailer is just different shots of the heroes being sad, which is not exciting to me. Like, I don't understand why they thought that, like, it just, none of it looked interesting or different, or like, oh, hey, remember that bright shot of Superman in the red suit? Now he's in a black suit. Surprise, surprise. They made it darker. No, not at all a shocker.
It's boring.
Yeah, no, it's not interesting at all.
We've had it.
Yeah. The only thing that I think we might get from an extended cut, from some of the stuff that I've also seen, there's some action shots with Superman fighting. There's a shot of the black suit. There's some more stuff with not Batman, but Bruce, as you say, like the character in between. There's a conversation where he's talking to the other members of the Justice League. We may find that some of the holes in the story were filled. For example, where the hell was Superman? Oh, I don't know, the whole film. Like, he goes to the farm and he disappears from the plot for the rest of the movie and then shows up to punch the bad guy at the end. Like, and it was a glaring error. It was just like, I forgot he was in this movie, sort of stuff. And maybe they'll fix Cavill's upper lip. I don't know. So stuff like that is something that they might fix, but I am not holding my breath. I'm probably going to watch it out of curiosity, but it's not going to be with any kind of excitement. It's more like, well, this is all the Superman and the Batman I have right now, so this is what we're going to watch. Are you looking forward to anything about the Snyder Cut?
I mean, honestly, my favorite part about the whole thing was Diana, and she was great already. She's the best part of it. So she's the best part of it. I'm just very tired of, like, the grimdark. Like, at least Marvel has some, like, fun with it. Like, Marvel's really good at towing this line between having seriousness but also having a good time.
Yeah.
Having a good time. Anyway,
yeah. No. Well, I'm rewatching. I've gone through some of the old Marvel movies that I have not watched as much as the others. So, like, I get to Civil War and I skipped it because I've seen it like a dozen times. But I rewatched Captain Marvel, which I had only ever seen in theaters. Mm-hmm. Some serious stuff in that, but also very lighthearted. And also now watching Infinity War, and like, Peter and Tony are on a spaceship and they may not be coming back to Earth, like one-way trip. And Spider-Man is still saying stuff like, well, you can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood. You know, like just stuff like that, where he at least says that and sort of smirks like, I'm worried and stressed, so I'm going to make a joke, you know, or he makes a joke about, hey, you ever seen that really old movie Aliens? Like stuff like that. They at least, like you said, they have some fun with dire situations. Tony and Doctor Strange bantering constantly. Like, again, you know, dire situation, but the characters have personality because they've been fleshed out and it's thoughtful. And I think the only time you get that in the Justice League film are any time behind the masks when Diana and Bruce are talking.
Yeah, genuinely. Yep. I'm just getting really tired of how samey everything seems to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just repeating the same thing over and over again because I really have no other thought.
Mm-hmm. We can move on to something that I know you'll have some thoughts on, and that is the Wonder Woman 1984 second trailer. Not the first one. We've seen the first one, but the second trailer dropped this past weekend.
Yeah.
And hey, look, it's got color.
Yes. However, I still, I don't know, maybe if it's just like the global climate or that, I don't know what it is. I watched the trailer and I feel like the trailer didn't really grab my attention. It didn't feel like when I saw the first trailer for the first Wonder Woman, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And even the first trailer for 1984 Wonder Woman, I was like, I'm so excited. This one I was kind of just like, okay, all right. We know who the villain is now, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's a really interesting, acting choice, like actor choice, I should say, for who's what's her name, Chitara?
No, Cheetah is the villain, and it is Kristen
Wiig.
Wiig, thank you. Yeah, she was in Ghostbusters, the most recent one with the whole female cast.
So she's typically a comedic actor. So this is a real different vibe for her, playing a villain. And you know, I feel like whoever cut this trailer together didn't. This is gonna sound bad. I feel like it was a guy. I feel like it was a guy who cut this together because honestly, the most interesting thing about the trailer was the small moments that you saw, especially Kristen Wiig's face. She looks like such an emotionally damaged character, and I am so interested in her, and I don't know what it is, but for the most part, like the action and the song that they used for the trailer didn't really grab my attention so much. It's definitely more interesting than the Batman trailer, which was still interesting, but like the Wonder Woman trailer is definitely more interesting. But I feel like I'm trying to curb my expectations and I am being highly critical of everything, or I'm just trying not to think about it too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What I was hoping for with the Wonder Woman 1984 trailer was Thor Ragnarok vibes, which I didn't get.
That's what I wanted. Yeah, you know? I think that's why I had the same sort of like feel in my head with it.
And they did that with the trailer one, right? Like you kind of had that.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, all right, I'm on board. 1984, yeah. I'm there. You know, fanny packs and neon stuff, and like, yeah. And then there was no neon in this trailer.
No. None. And I think that's why I was a little bit disappointed in it, because it kind of like totally changed the vibe of what I expected. But maybe that's going to be more of what the movie's actually going to be like. Who knows? And, you know, I generally try not to get too deep into trailers as a rule.
Yeah.
Because I have been proven time and time again that either the trailer destroys the whole movie. Yeah. Like it gets rid of every funny part in the whole movie. Or it is nothing like the movie actually is. Like I remember hearing a story of like there was one trailer that was done for a movie and it made it seem like a fun comedy, but it was a horror movie. Oh. And it totally, I don't even remember what it was. No. But I'm sure you've heard of that before too. If anyone knows what that is, or it was like a thriller of some kind.
In case in point, there's some really good character moments from the trailer for the original trailer for Justice League, not in the film. And you see a good chunk of them that are in this Snyder Cut release. And they were like moments from like Victor, Cyborg's, football days, or some Aquaman stuff. They look like things that maybe would tie Aquaman to how he got the trident and the armor. Because in the Justice League movie, he just kind of shows up in like full Aquaman armor, and everybody's like, okay, where'd you get that? Because last time we saw you, you were in a fur coat. Like, you're just weird stuff. And I think a lot of that is just like, well, I mean, the movie suffers from two different directors and a bunch of other unfortunate events, but it's one of those things where, like, I agree with you, and I have a hard time with trailers as well, because I don't want all of the epic scenes to be shown to me in the trailer, and it's why I would avoid things like some of the later Marvel trailers. I'm just like, nope, I'm on board. They've sold me. I don't need to know. I'm just going to go. Same with Star Wars. And I find that sometimes with Star Wars, they give you all these massive money shots in the trailer. It's like, no, I want to experience the fleet of Star Destroyers in the film, not on my phone. you know?
Yep. No, I'm 100% with you. So, I mean, I'm reserved. I feel like I'm pulling my thoughts a little bit on the Wonder Woman stuff, not because I'm disappointed in it, and I am slightly. I think just because of how I was expecting and kind of hoping for camp and didn't get camp. But I will still see the movie because Wonder Woman.
Well, yeah.
She will get my money and my eternal love and support for all time ever. And but I'm hoping that if ever there's a trailer 3, it kind of amps up the energy a little bit, because it just kind of felt like it was really lackluster. It was lacking energy. And in a way that everything else that has been Wonder Woman up to this point has not been. So but again, I'm not sure if that's just like global climate as it is right now, or if it's that's just they just made a boring trailer.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder again, like how much, I mean, the movie's done. It's supposed to be released in October. And again, speaking of DC mistakes, in theaters only in 8 weeks from now or less, which I like. You want to know how to bomb a movie?
Put it in theaters only during COVID.
Yeah, like just what a stupid, like you have the DC Universe service in the States. Now, granted, it's not worldwide, but you have licensing partners like obviously HBO. How is this not a worldwide release? Put it on everybody's screen, device, anything that they want to do. Because there are a number of people that really want to see Wonder Woman 1984 that have zero desire to go to a theater in October. I am one of those people. Like, not happening. I will see the movie eventually. I will pay for the movie eventually. I will not go in October. Like, that's not on my list. You know, and I really feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot, especially when it's the one franchise that DC is dealing with right now that actually has, in my opinion, some legs, you know, some monochrome of success. I really like the first Wonder Woman film. I think it's miles above any of the other things that they've done. I think I might even like it better than Man of Steel, you know, like as far as how is it a good film, you know, and I've seen some good moments in the trailer. Like I like the whole back and forth. Like I like the role reversal for, I still don't know how Steve Trevor is back, but the fact that she is then walking him through 1984, like he was walking her through society in 1914 or whatever. Like, it, you know, she discovers ice cream for the first time and he's like fanny packs and skydiver pants or parachute pants or something. So it all felt fun and there is going to be some humor in it, obviously. I don't know how I feel about, I mean, Kristen Wiig as an actor, awesome. Cool choice. I don't know if I want to see a CG cheetah fight. Like I kind of feel like they could have done something else for a bad guy for Wonder Woman. I understand that Cheetah's a huge nemesis in the comics.
She is, yeah.
But I kind of wonder if there could be a better, bigger, you know, like, I mean, given what you've told me before and what I've gotten out of the Wonder Woman film is that she needs like a Thanos level bad guy, you know, like not, I mean, I guess that's probably what Justice League is supposed to be about. What's his face there? The Omega Beam dude, Darkseid. Right. This is what I mean. But the thing, well, and so I watched this Easter egg breakdown of the Justice League Snyder Cut trailer. And this guy is going on about, well, this is Darkseid, but this is before he was known as Darkseid. And he's insert name that I can't remember that I've never heard before in my life, that you would have to be a comic dork to even understand. It's like, you are not going to get people in by taking the biggest bad the DC universe has and cutting their legs out from underneath them and saying, well, he's not Darkseid yet. Then why the fuck is he in the movie? Like, I just...
Yeah.
But, like, this is what I mean. Like, they need something like that for Wonder Woman. I don't... Like, when I know what Wonder Woman can do, because we've seen her take on Ares and win, a cheetah, no matter how cool, doesn't seem all that threatening. It's like having an angry cat.
Yeah, there's a reason why Cheetah is so prolific, and I actually don't know that much about her. I'm more familiar with the New 52.
Right.
I know that Cheetah was very popular in the 80s, which is probably why they're bringing her back. Yeah. But for all of the nemesi that Diana has had, from the New 52 series, which is kind of where I kind of jumped in, it's been a lot of the Greek and Roman gods.
Right.
Which would be a really interesting take at some point too, but I think because it's so rooted in mythology, I don't know if a lot of people would find that interesting.
No.
But the New 52 Hades as an enemy was fascinating, so interesting. His design was very interesting. I think that would look really cool on screen, but I can see why they probably haven't done it. So I think they're going for her classic enemies first.
Right.
I have a feeling her next one is going to be Circe, she's a sorceress of some kind, but she's rooted in mythology as well, but she's not as well known.
And this, I find, is one of the things that DC has to struggle with, is that in order to challenge any of these godlike superheroes that they have, Wonder Woman, Superman, Shazam, they have to come up with some crazy magical thing.
But see, the thing is, that's already there for Diana. Like, Diana has deities that she fights and she wins against.
I get that, but it's, for me, in terms of a modern superhero culture, DC can't hide from the behemoth that is Marvel, which is mostly sci-fi. I mean, Doctor Strange got his own thing, mystic arts and all that. But in my mind, and you can fight me on it, but I think he's the weakest link in the Avengers. His stuff takes the biggest leap to wrap your head around, whereas Ant-Man, even though he shrinks like to the size of an atom, it's sci-fi. I can just wrap my head around that and I'm good, right?
I still prefer Doctor Strange to Ant-Man.
Okay,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, Doctor Strange is a better movie. But
yes.
But you know what I mean? Like, in terms of like suspension of disbelief, I actually have to work less to understand Ant-Man than I do Doctor Strange. Just things like Doctor Strange going like, I've seen 16,497 outcomes and we only won in one. It's like, oh, really? Like, just say a lot or something. Like, I feel like there's just so much of that. He's so omniscient. It's like, well, if you're this good, how come you just can't win? And it's because then there would be no movie, and I feel like it's a big problem across DC. It's the same thing why, they have the to bring in these, Darkseid and this other world stuff and parademons, because you can't have modern day Superman saving the world from bank robbers, because that's unfortunately the way that DC has set them up. Superman has gone from leaping over tall buildings to lifting islands. Like, it's a huge change, and it presents difficult ways to challenge, the heroes. But so many of the DC heroes are susceptible to magic that then you get into all of the magic stuff. And I think that takes a bigger leap for fans that aren't maybe as steeped in the DC comics as other people are. It's why I didn't really identify much with all the Endergan stuff in Titans with what's her name? Rachel?
Rachel?
Raven is the character name.
Raven,
that's why I didn't really get on board with that. It's because I understand Batman, Robin, Dick Grayson, Nightwing. Like, I see that straight line. But like, you're talking about, like, is it demons? But is it hell? But is it mythology? Like, I don't know where DC stands on all this kind of stuff, because they're diving into all of this without laying the groundwork. They didn't do the 19 movies that Marvel did. They did 3. Yeah. and of those franchises, up until recently, they didn't cross over.
Yep.
So it's they don't have as many legs to stand on. But that said, I mean, obviously, I adore Gal Gadot. I think she's a fantastic actor. I think that she owns the role. My gosh, is she perfect for it? And,
yes.
And like I said, she steals the Justice League movies. So, I mean, I'm excited for it, and I want it to do well. Especially because of recently watching Captain Marvel and just really being on board for that female superhero lead that is so traditionally, a dude role. Like punch first, asks questions later, and cheer while you do it. And I'm right there 100%. For it. Like I love that, and I love the tenderness that Gadot brings to the role too. Right? I mean, there's a shot in the Snyder trailer where they're showing her talk or comfort a schoolgirl. I think there's no dialogue. Pretentiously, the whole Snyder trailer has Hallelujah playing in the background. Like it's kind of.
Yeah, Colin mentioned he was like, I heard the first 2 words of Hallelujah and turned it off.
Yep.
He was like, no, I'm not into this.
If I wasn't about to do a podcast about it, I would have.
He was not into it. So like it sounds like opinions are not great so far, but I think it's also just a complete disconnect of like what studios are giving us and what we actually want as people. And it doesn't sound like they're giving us what we want. So it's this, I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. It'll make money, I'm sure, either way. So
yes. Well, there's that too. No, I don't want to hijack the whole show. I know we're running a little bit long, but that's fine because we had a sparse summer here on the Citadel Cafe. So it's nice to catch up with friends and give the podcast a little bit extra length. I know that people are still at home, and I don't think anyone's going to complain about a little bit extra. But you had something that you wanted to bring up on the show that I thought was really interesting, and we've been talking a lot about animation lately, and this actually surprisingly falls right in line with that.
It came to my attention on the Twitter, because I spend my time nowhere else, that there is a new show out created by Vivian Medrano called Has Been Hotel. Now, this is not for children. Kids do not watch. Parents, do not let your kids watch it. It is very graphic. I don't want to say graphic. That's not. It's very adult language, and the content is very graphic in terms of subject matter, but it is in the same sort of design style as Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Powerpuff Girls, and you said something else too when we were talking about pre-show, Joel.
Beetlejuice from the late 80s.
Beetlejuice, yes, that's exactly what it was. So it's got a very like cartoony, fun, bright, colorful style. And they've recently released the pilot for it. So the pilot is actually viewable on YouTube. You can look it up. The YouTube channel is Vivzy Pop, I believe. And I didn't realize this until recently, actually, but this whole show was conceptualized by Vivian Medrano on her own, and she raised money to produce the pilot by herself. So with this money, she hired a team, produced the pilot. I will say, as a pilot, it is the most fantastically produced pilot I have ever seen for an animated show. It looks really wonderful. I'm kind of into it. I watched it, and I went in with no expectations. But the reason I watched it is that people are hating on it so viciously online. Like, really, really viciously. And I don't know why. I've asked people why. I'm like, okay, why are you mad about it? And no one has given me an answer. So if anyone knows why people are mad about this, please message me on Twitter. My DMs are open. You can message me at any time. And I would really like to know if I'm missing something, because I cannot find any information out there. I personally think it's very fascinating. The design is very cool. There's a villain named Alistair whose design is super cool, and his audio, his voice mix is really neat. He kind of sounds like a 1920s radio host. So he's like fun. Super poppy. And he's just like, "Oh, hey, how you doing today?" It's kind of, he's very, very dramatic, but he's kind of got like this sort of like thin level of like grain over his voice, and he has a staff that will play a laugh track randomly. So it's like his whole, it's so fun. It's such a fun design, but he's also terrifying. He is scary. He's the villain, but he is scary looking. But he's called like the smiling demon because he's always smiling, he always seems happy and everything seems really chipper, but if you make a deal with him, it's like, that's it, game over. So the premise of it is, Charlie, who is the Princess of Hell, she is kind of, she's a bit more soft-hearted than most of the patrons of Hell are. A lot of them are very mean-spirited, drug-addicted, zero inhibition sort of people. And she kind of she's kind of very sunshine rainbows and really into music. Like it's also a musical. There's music in it. It's very interesting. It's got a little bit of something for everybody. So she wants to start this hotel, because every year there is a purge of the residents. So angels come down from heaven, wipe out a bunch of demons, and it's like vicious how terrible they are. And the angels are also very scary. Like there's a lot of very interesting symbolism in it. So the angels come down, they do a purge, they kill a bunch of people, and then they go away. And then, the rest of the year goes on as normal. So it's so that's basically it. So Charlie is really upset by the amount of purging going on, and she's like, we've lost so many souls, this is really terrible. So she's decided she wants to start a hotel that encourages people to reform so they can then make their way to heaven.
By people, you mean demons, right?
Yes, yeah, people, the patrons of Hell, demons mostly, spirits, what have you. So anyone who's in Hell currently, if they check into the hotel, they're basically agreeing to live like a celibate, drug-free, chill, good, positive lifestyle, and hopefully they can be reformed and sent to heaven. So, cute premise. It's, very simple, but it's pretty cute. And the first person that she gets to sign up for her hotel is a well-known adult actor and drug addict who is coincidentally nicknamed after a drug, Angel Dust. And Angel Dust is very flamboyantly gay, very sexually forward, and I think part of the complete visceral hate about this is kind of around that character specifically, because I think some people feel like it's a trope that gay men are very promiscuous and overly sexual.
Right.
But I feel from what I've watched and all the other content that Vivian Medrano has regarding the show, they did a little music video that it's called Addict, and it's about Angel Dust and his best friend, and it kind of goes into his backstory a little bit. And it's very dark and it's very sad. And I feel like the show is a commentary on a lot of things. I think it's too much to talk about right now because it's pretty deep to get into, but I feel like it's a commentary and I feel like it's making a point, but we haven't seen that point yet because it's just been in its pilot stage. So yeah, I'm genuinely very confused why people seem to not like it so much, because I feel like it has a lot of potential. I feel like it's rough, for a pilot, it's very good, but there still needs to be some stuff that's reworked. It almost gives you too much information. It almost introduces too many people and too many concepts at once. But I understand that, in order to hook people, you kind of have to give them a full, complete
You got to remember, too,
option.
That pilots are not necessarily meant to hook the public. They're meant to hook a buyer, right? And so
it's true.
These busy buyers that are going to distribute your show in whatever form that happens to be, whether it's Netflix, whether it's traditional television, whether it's cable or HBO or whatever, you need to sell the exec. And you've got 30 minutes to do that with a pilot, or less if you're just doing a pitch. So I can understand why, and a lot of the pilots that I've seen over the years have been a little disjointed because there's less plot, more look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. These are all the concepts that we can flesh out into a full season. So.
Yes. But it has that. It has look at this, look at this, look at this, because it's very stylized. And there's a lot of information that's being given to you very, very quickly. And some of the information that is in the beginning of the pilot, in the first 15 seconds, not even 8 seconds, is very important information, but you only have a second to process it. And the only reason why I know it is that I kept digging to find more information about it with all the other pieces of information that the creator has out there on the internet, on her website and on her YouTube and everything. So I've personally done some homework. So that's what I mean. Like, if you're not the type of person to, you know, research things like I am, you probably would miss that stuff, which is fine. I'm sure that's stuff that can be reworked, you know, later. Again, this is a pilot, but for a self-produced pilot, it is the most, like, easily watchable pilot, if that makes sense. Like, it gives you all the information you need to understand exactly who the characters are, what the premise is, who the villain is, and kind of what to expect from the show. And I think it's spectacular for what it is. You know, I don't know if the subject matter is my cup of tea, but I think I'll watch it just for the stylization on its own, because it feels weirdly nostalgic in a way, again, because it's kind of pulling from Foster's Home and Powerpuff Girls and Beetlejuice. It's kind of pulling from that nostalgic style that I was used to seeing growing up, but it's dealing with a lot of mature themes that I haven't seen addressed before. Now, some people will obviously disagree with me, clearly, but I think it's pretty interesting. And what I think is kind of weird is that the animation community and animation fans are saying that they want a show that, you know, more shows written, produced, and, you know, designed by, you know, women of color, by people of color, by, you know, people in the LGBTQ alphabet soup community. And
sorry,
this is
alphabet
all of them.
Soup community.
Yes,
that's the first time it's just a funny way to say it. It's apt, and I
alphabet
respect
soup.
It all. But like, that is,
yeah,
I have never heard that. That's hilarious.
I don't know where it came. I think Bethany threw that out there. I'm like, that's it. That's easier.
So
just alphabet soup community.
No, yeah.
I feel like because people don't like the word queer.
No,
yes.
It's a friendly way to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't like the word queer because apparently, like, and you know, I get it. The word queer is a slur, was a slur. I personally have reclaimed it for myself.
Yeah,
but not everyone likes it. So alphabet soup is without you don't have to stumble over all the letters, and it's just like, yeah, we're all part of the alphabet
have to
soup.
remind myself that, because I mean, I've heard different things, and I've heard, growing up, I hear all kinds of different stuff, but I've heard the term queer as derogatory. I've heard it in a positive way. I just, from an English language perspective, I have to remind myself, like, oh no, she doesn't mean weird, she means queer, because to me queer is just, it just translates in my brain from a dictionary to being odd, right?
Yes, and I think that's why it was perceived as an insult. Or as a slur of some kind. Yeah. So, but like, that's like, it depends on who you ask. Like, really, like, a lot of the labels out there are kind of just, you know, depending on who you talk to and who you ask, they'll have a different opinion on it. So alphabet soup is a general term. But yes, this show was created by, you know, a woman of color who is part of the alphabet soup community. And as soon as it was, you know, announced that it was being picked up by a studio, everyone's like, no, we don't want that one though. Not that. We want, you know, stuff written by, you know, queer women of color, but not that one. And I'm just wondering why. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like there's some other piece of information that, you know, maybe is about the show itself or about the creator. Everything I've seen so far has been about the show itself and the subject matter of the show. And again, I think it's trying to make a point. I think a lot of people are very tired of seeing adult animation that's very similar to Family Guy, Futurama, American Dad, Simpsons. Like, it's very samey.
It is.
Which I get. I totally understand. So this is kind of, it's still kind of within that vein, but also unique looking enough and nostalgic enough in its design that it is interesting to look at. It's very interesting to look at.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, the character designs are very, very skilled. I mean, in a way that I've never been. It's very
interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, very interesting. Well, I don't know. I'm sure you're a very skilled character designer.
But I mean,
no, give yourself more credit.
Thank you. But I'm a very structured character designer. Like, I'm a character designer of the 90s. Like, I'm a comic book. What's the word I'm looking, like, what's a good example? The Incredibles. Like, that's the kind of character design that I kind of gravitate to.
Which is totally fine.
I try to push myself to be more fluid and flexible and cartoony, quote unquote.
Oh, I see what you mean now. Yes, the character designs in this are there are a lot of soft curves.
Oh yeah. So
yes,
you think
very
about, like,
soft, almost noodly in a way.
Well, I was going to say noodly. Think about, like, have you seen trailers for Cuphead? Have you seen that video game?
Yes, I love Cuphead.
1930s and 40s stuff. So even when I've been contracted to mimic that style, I find it very challenging. I just want to draw an elbow. Like I just, like I have a very structured mind, so I have a very structured style. And
which is fair.
Drawing stuff like this, drawing Animaniacs, and even some of the more challenging techniques I learned as an animator were hard because it involved like smearing things and really kind of pushing the structure of a character to its limit and trying to get past how it looks on the page, knowing that that page is only on screen for a 24th of a second, right? And so, because I'm so old that I was actually working with film, it's 30 frames a second now, but stuff like that, it's hard to wrap your brain around sometimes. But I think if I could guess, because I've not even seen the trailer, I'm only looking at images in the Wikipedia article that you shared before the show. There's a couple of things that I think might be rubbing people the wrong way. And I don't know if they even realize it. I would imagine that part of it is that without reading anything about it, before you watch it, it looks like a kid's cartoon. So that's disarming.
That could also be it too.
And that sets an expectation for it to be funny, but also wholesome. Whether or not you realize you have that expectation, that's just how you were raised. If you're old enough to be on the internet, you probably are familiar with Saturday morning cartoons, or at the very least, YouTube stuff that's cartoony and wholesome.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have that inset, like subconscious expectation. So when characters start dropping, language or adult situations, like prostitution or drug addiction or hell or demons or sinners or any kind of alphabet soup, then it's off-putting because that's not what you were expecting. Even if it says on the label, this is an adult cartoon, but visually it's messing with your head. Which I do get. Which also could be on purpose. Like it maybe this is a juxtaposition that Vivian wanted to make. As you said, like there's so much about this that feels so intentional that you wonder why, if this is a woman of color, part of the queer community, that is making this thing that is not being received well by the queer community, you kind of wonder if she's managed to find a way, because that there's going to be some conservative people, this is going to push all of their buttons. She's managing to push buttons of the people in her community, which as a cartoonist is kind of the point. Like, good on her.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I definitely think it's making a commentary on some things, but we haven't had a chance to give it a fair shot yet.
No, and I think that the other thing that I wanted to say is that we are also dealing with a global pandemic where everybody is home all the time and they have nothing better to do than to pick apart shit on the internet and find stuff to complain about. And it's a problem across more than just television. I just spent 40 minutes doing it with DC trailers, I have seen people doing it in video games, in conversations that I'm having or listening to, watching streamers while I work. I'll throw up a Twitch stream in their chat room and they're talking about some latest video game and how it's just the same and boring and doesn't live up to expectations and blah, 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 blah. But everybody is setting the bar so bloody high that they're not just, well, have you played it? Are you judging it having not played it? Or are you, and sometimes there is intelligent conversation and sometimes there's not. And then there's people that are generating content based on other people's content. Reaction videos on YouTube. I went looking for some of the information about the Justice League trailer, and I can't tell you the sheer amount of videos that are out there that are 100% subjective, but present themselves as everything you need to know about the Justice League trailer. It was all opinion. They know nothing more than I do. And they're just connecting dots that either exist or don't exist. And even then, the connection is just purely subjective. And I think that in a struggle to just make the next video, do the next thing, I'm wondering if some of the people that are hating on this are like, well, there's a lot of people hating on this video or on this thing. I don't particularly like it. I don't hate it. But if I make a video about it that rants about it, I'm going to get a lot of attention. And that's a lot easier than actually making this thing. This thing looks like it took a lot of work. And
it does. And it was executed beautifully. I think it looks beautiful.
I hope in the end all the negative attention just turns into attention. You know what I mean? Like
well, that's what made me watch it, because it was getting so much negative attention, and people were just shitting on it in like the worst way on Twitter. And I was like, what is this? And I went and looked it up, and I watched it, and I was like, why? I had no history about it. I don't know any, like, literally the information I know is people are shitting on it. Some people like it. A lot of people hate it. I watched it. I think it's pretty interesting. I like, again, I don't think it's perfect. I think that the subject matter is very intense. And I think, you know, if some of the subject matter that is in the show is uncomfortable to you, don't watch it. It is, you know, it is very intense. It can be very intense. But I think it is trying to make a point, but we have to let it get to the point where it can make the point. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be able to say what it came to say, because I think it's going to have a lot to say just based on everything else that I've seen. I think it's making a commentary on a lot of very serious things, particularly in this is what I didn't come up with this, but I watched a breakdown video on YouTube about it, and someone is guessing that, you know, LGBTQ plus people end up in hell because they're part of the LGBTQ plus community, not because they deserve to be there. And I feel like this is a situation that happened with the character of Angel Dust in particular. Like, you know, there's in, you know, some of the backstory and stuff, he was a drug addict and, you know, was, you know, unfortunate living circumstances. And, you know, based on his actions while he was alive, he ended up in hell. Does he deserve to be there? I don't think so. From what I'm garnering, he just seems like a sad dude who just, you know, is putting on a face and trying to make the most of it. You know, cool. So at face value, he seems very, you know, laissez-faire about everything. But I think there's something deeper under there that I think we should give it a chance to say. We should have a chance for it to explore that, and it sounds like it's going to have that chance. I will watch it. I would like to know what you think about it if you watch it, Joel. Even if
I'm
it's
definitely
just like
interested.
One-on-one conversation.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, I'd be interested to watch it just on its visual merits alone.
Yeah,
but I'd be
very
curious.
Visual. It's very,
you know,
good.
For all the other reasons that you've brought up. You know, I'm curious about it as well. Especially because I know people in the animation industry who are probably well aware of this. And to talk to them to see if they've seen it, like that kind of thing would be interesting to see where.
But if anyone listening has any more information about why it's getting such visceral hate, or you know, why you don't like it, I'm not gonna bash you on it. If you just want to have a chat or a conversation, my DMs are open. I would love to have this conversation with you, so I can learn more, because there may be something that I'm missing that I haven't heard of or seen or know that, you know, could maybe change my mind about it. Who knows? But I would like to have that conversation, and just no one seems to be willing to have that conversation with me. So I'd like to chat about it if anyone wants to. So please message me on Twitter if you want to. And
if you do watch the pilot and have some thoughts on it that you'd like to share here on the Citadel Cafe, it's thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. Pretty easy to remember. You can write in just like I think it was Mr. Red this week. And this is normally where I would plug in an Internet Minute, but I moved it up into the main show. It was actually it was the Batman trailer that I had as the Internet Minute at first, but then I remembered the whole DC weekend and everything kind of spiraled into a whole segment.
I do have something though, really small.
Oh, do you?
If I can
All right.
Sneak it in, yes.
Well, maybe I'll sneak in a promotion right now, which is that the Internet Minute is brought to you by you, dear listener. Did you know that there are no advertisements in the Citadel Cafe? That's because of you. If you go to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe, you can become a member. That is a way to join the Discord server, hang out and chat with people like Megan and I all week long. There's actually quite a few people in there because the Discord server is shared with my personal Patreon as well as my Twitch community. So there's a solid crew in there now. Very nerdy, very well versed. The books channel was flying this week with all kinds of recommendations. So if you are an author or a writer or someone that just likes to read, there's also some stuff in there for you. It's not just superhero banter back and forth. So once again, you can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Megan, what's your pick this week?
This was literally just announced today, but Molly Knox Ostertag, who is a well-known comic book creator, she wrote the Witch Boy series. She's also writing on the animated show The Owl House, and she's most known as Noelle Stevenson's wife. But she has just announced a comic book called The Girl from the Sea. It is going to be released on June 1st of 2021, so next year. And it's really cute. It's a romance between Kelty, a mysterious Selkie who doesn't understand humans, and Morgan, a Nova Scotian teen, which I think is really interesting. Something I learned about Molly is that she actually spent a lot of time in maritime Nova Scotia, rural Nova Scotia, mostly Lunenburg area. So it's really nice to have, like, you know, a story be inspired by our town, like our place. It looks really cute. Molly's art is very adorable. She just announced it on Twitter, and I'm sure, you know, if you follow her on Instagram or anything else, it's going to be there. But that's it. I was just really excited about it. If you like comic books and, you know, like stuff about Nova Scotia, it's there. It's really adorable. I'm really excited.
Fantastic. If you'd like to see links to that or other things that we talked about here this week on the Citadel Cafe, you can go to thecitadelcafe.com. You can also email the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find us by name on Twitter. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. Word of mouth is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell a friend about the Citadel Cafe and where they can go to find it. You can also leave a star rating or a review on the Apple Podcast app or Spotify app. That's a great way for strangers to find out about the Citadel Cafe. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. You can also find me on Twitch and also on the Spawn Chunks podcast, and that's at thespawnchunks.com. Every Monday we talk about Minecraft. There's also a release of Minecraft Dungeons coming up next month, so there's lots of stuff to talk about over at thespawnchunks.com. Megan, where can people follow you online?
People can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, especially Twitter at Megan Townsend, and on Twitch occasionally at twitch.tv/Megan Townsend as well.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick 2.